Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Let's start our story with the story of how our OP defended his rights after a disagreement with a rental agency. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Won't fix the washer-dryer in winter? Okay. So many years ago, after I graduated, I was lucky enough to get on a scheme for health workers to make it affordable to buy your first home in the UK, but had to have started work. I couldn't start because I had nowhere to live. They couldn't find accommodation in the hospital, so I had to rent a place myself. The rental agency told me a rolling monthly contract, all I needed until my place was built, was okay, and stupid 18-year-old me didn't read the contract fully. So it gets to November, 2 months in. The place I'm buying is ready middle of next month, so I give notice for November and end of December, about 7 weeks given when you only give a month. They tell me it's a 6-month minimum and show me in the contract where it's at. We argue as I have emails from the rental agency staff, but I drop it. The rent is cheap and ultimately I sign the contract. They get a lot of business from hospital staff though. They stopped being referred to. When I told the contact at the hospital, they lost easy business. They knew it was me, so got pretty crappy with me. At the start of December, the washer-dryer broke. In the UK, have machines that do both in smaller places instead of a separate washing and drying machine. It wouldn't drain fully. There was a thing I could remove at the bottom and ask the water would come out on the floor, but it was too low to catch it. By any means, it wouldn't spin or dry. I emailed the rental agency. They suggested I set my clothes outside until I moved out. They said since I told them I'd be vacating the property in a few weeks, they would wait. I reminded them it was December and my clothes would freeze, plus it was a bad neighborhood, so didn't want to dry outside. They persisted. I showed them the contract where washer-dryer was included and repairs or replacement of included white goods was supposed to happen within a week. They persisted. They suggested drying indoors or offered to reimburse laundrette use. I said indoors might cause too much humidity, seemed like a bad idea to me, so I went off to the laundrette. They refused to reimburse when I took them the receipt. I decided to dry my laundry in the rental using the heating following their recommendation and continued to do so for the few weeks I had left. Moving day came and we took most of our stuff and left a few things to stop them moving anyone else in while we still rented it. I noticed a bit of mold on the wall of the closet as I got the last of my things out of it. They asked to come and do a final inspection, and I said, no, it could wait until the last day of my tenancy, not occupancy. Didn't give the long enough notice to do emergency inspections, so I denied any access requests when previously I'd been okay with that. I went back to the rental a few days before the last day. The mold had spread in the 2.5 months, halfway up every wall in the living room, and I think under the kitchen units where water hadn't gotten stagnant. It looked like a bad wallpaper color choice. It was insane. They came for final inspection and said they'd deduct all my deposit and took pictures, also suggested a possible civil lawsuit as the damage was above the deposit/amount. Now, in the UK at the time, deposits had to be kept separate, and most rental agencies used a firm or some government program that required sign-off from the tenant about deductions, and they could be contested. I contested it using the emails as evidence and won, so all my deposit was returned to me. Never heard anything back about the civil suit either. And our next story. Shut up and do my job? Fine. That'll cost the company $20,000. So I don't work at this company anymore for obvious reasons, but this was such a satisfying moment for me. Also, I was a 25-year-old female at the time. My boss, 34-year-old male. Not that it matters too much, just for context. I work in construction consulting, and our job is to make sure that all dirt materials are stable for building or pouring concrete or asphalt on. We have 3 different labels for dirt: Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3. We very rarely interact with Type 3, except in very specific circumstances. One of my first few weeks of the job, there was an underground foreman that was trying to use Type 3 material that had not been approved. Type 3 needs approval for use and can only be used to surround sewer pipes and other utilities. Because of this incident, I was exposed to Type 3. My average coworker could go 2 years without ever seeing it. Fast forward a year and a half later, and my boss and I keep getting in tiffs. He's asking me to drive across town in my personal vehicle, and I'm telling him no, which I was perfectly within my rights to do so. And there were just other random little things that he was getting mad about. He decided he'd had enough of me when he approached me one morning asking me to go to a job site on the other side of town as an overtime job in the afternoon. He stated that if he sent one of my other coworkers, they'd complain, so he needed me to go. I had the next day off for vacation, and he knew that. He also knew I had a 6-hour drive that night through the pitch-black desert of Arizona, so I told him I wouldn't go. If I was in the wrong here or not is irrelevant. I was only requested to work my 40 hours as an hourly employee and didn't have to do overtime. But he was pissed. I got called into the office that afternoon and had a stern talking to about how my attitude needed to change. While I went back and forth with him saying he can't expect me to do things he doesn't expect any of my colleagues to do, he decided the correct answer was, I need you to just shut up and do your job when I tell you. Well, all right then. A week and a half later, I arrive at a job site to test what's supposed to be Type 2 for underneath asphalt. The only material allowed under asphalt per our building codes is Type 2. I looked up this specific material on the county-approved material list to find it was labeled for Type 3 use only. So about half a medium-sized neighborhood worth of street is currently filled with the wrong material. And I'm well aware of this. It's about 12,000 cubic yards of material that was placed and treated. This takes hours and hours to do and dozens of rock trucks, full loads of rock. I have two options when I realize this. I can call my boss and let him know that the contractor placed the wrong material, or I can just do the testing that's asked of me and be on my merry way. So I did the testing. I did everything I was supposed to do, gave my paperwork to the contractor, and left. The county building department then shows up to have a look at the material and my paperwork. The following Monday, county calls my office asking why I tested Type 3. The contractor calls my office saying this is going to cost $20,000 to fix and that we should have caught their mistake, so we have to foot the bill. My boss calls me and requests we have a meeting. A lot of my coworkers were pissed about me getting in trouble the previous week, so one calls me to let me know that my bosses actually didn't know what the proper code was for this situation and had called another coworker who'd been in the industry for 25 years. I had also already accepted a job with a new company, but I hadn't given them my notice yet, so I wasn't really worried about what the outcome of this would be. My boss is yelling at me for allowing the material to get through to county and that I need to do a better job, and why didn't I call him? I told him I was doing my job like he'd told me to do, that he'd told me not to ask questions and to just do what I was told, so that's what I was doing. He didn't want to hear this and kept saying how I was better than that and that I should have known better. At which point I've checked out of this conversation and am thinking about anything else. I calmly let him know that any of my coworkers would have also made this mistake except for possibly the very one he called that afternoon to ask about the code. He told me that it wasn't true and that everyone else would have known. I said, okay, sure, whatever, and that maybe you should have trained us better because no one knows what Type 3 even is. At this point, his boss comes in and says how we'll probably be the ones to foot the bill for this situation and how it's a very costly mistake and we need to do better. He says it's going to cost about $20,000 and that it looks bad for me as I signed the paperwork. He's rambling on about possible repercussions for me and that if there was a lawsuit, I'd be liable. I'm not the person of competence for this job site, and I didn't do anything wrong in terms of lying about the situation, which would actually put me at fault. But the bosses keep talking about this and tell me I can leave. 2 days later, we have an department meeting about this situation. Not a single one of my coworkers raises their hand when my boss asked if we knew what Type 3 was other than the coworker he had called. He got pretty red and said, "We'll have more training on this soon." I put my 2 weeks in that Friday and walked out on Monday. Felt really great about that. And our last story. Cheat on me and no one goes on vacation. My ex and I used to go to a Cancun resort every year with a bunch of our mutual friends. I found out my ex was cheating on me when I accidentally got a flight confirmation email that he booked tickets for himself and the other girl. It was rough. Tried to have a civil breakup, but he refused to pay me for the Cancun vacation that I'd already prepaid. I tried to get my money back, but he refused. After our breakup, it took me several weeks to find a new place to live and move my things out of his house. On the last trip to the house, I asked him one last time for the money, and he again refused, so I accidentally packed his current passport in my last box of things and left my expired passport in its place. Since he's already booked his tickets, he apparently didn't check the passport until he was at the airport and was denied the international flight because he didn't have a current passport. I never did get my money, but I did get immense satisfaction that he didn't get to go on vacation. Updated. I gave the passport back a couple weeks later when I discovered it in a box of things to unpack. So weird, right? He asked for a refund for the flights, and I told him I'd be happy to if he refunded me for the resort, which was much more expensive. He declined. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.